Hey everybody, so this is Jonathan Miller, as always, with the Hometown Historian channel. We are doing potentially a live video a lot earlier than I thought I was going to. A lot of it depends. There's a couple different things. We're here at Union Canal Tunnel Park. We visited here twice. On this channel, we've also visited with Cliff in the Wandering Woodsman channel for the Searching for History series. This is a park that celebrates the monument of the oldest transportation tunnel in North America. We've gone over the history and stuff like that. They do on Sundays from beginning of June through end of, I believe, September, sometimes even end of October. It just depends on what water levels are, that type of thing, because like the canal itself back in the day, if the water wasn't high enough, Canal Boat couldn't go through because it'd be scraping bottom. Not the problem. Now they have a more modern Canal Boat, which we'll show you then. Once again, I'm not sure whether it's going to happen or not, because it depends on getting onto the Canal Boat, which I think is pretty simple because they have a side that goes down and I should be able to get in there. I'll do another thing while I'm walking out here. Cliff and I, the Wandering Woodsman, had breakfast yesterday at Dutch Way Restaurant in Myerstown, and he invited me to come to the Canal Boat run that they do. They do, I think, between like 12:30 and like 3:34, depending on how many people are there to go on the ride. But it gives you a little bit of a feel of what it's like to go on a canal boat on that part, like this part of the canal, because I think they have not quite a mile, it might be a little, like around a mile, that they did then. Hold on here for a second. Alright, so I'm back. It was I had a friend that contacted me because we have a fantasy football league. I don't know how many of you play like fantasy football or fantasy sports, but I'm the commissioner of a league, and you have a keeper league, so you have 2 players that you keep from the previous year's roster, and he always sends out emails to everybody reminding them, Sunday before the draft, you have to set your 2 keepers. Not difficult, it's simple. You just go in, bam bam, you keep 2 of your players. Simple. And we do it that late because, you know, you have these preseason games, somebody gets injured, you obviously don't want to keep that player. But anyways, a lot of fun. I always have had a blast with it. And of course, this year again, we had somebody that forgot to do it, so he has to contact them, and then I can't assign our draft order for next Saturday until I have everybody's keepers. So I threatened, I said, you're going to wind up getting, you know, a defensive back and a kicker as your keepers. So just joking, but so he just got them to me and I got everything signed up. But it's not stressful, but it's always like that last minute thing where just assign your keepers. It makes it so much easier. But anyways, so with the whole thing, they have this canal boat ride where they have the canal boat, and I'll when I walk over there with Cliff, I'll show you the canal boat and we'll go from there. But I am having to wear my boot. I have been able to switch over to the medical shoe, which is, it's weird because when you wear something like this, your calf muscle gets weak, because the boot in essence is doing all the work. It's taking all the strain, and so it's a little weird yet when I'm walking around that shoe without, you know, because the heel cord is healed and Achilles or whatever it is. I'm assuming it's the Achilles, but that's worked well. So, but I'm not on longer walks. I'm still going to be doing the boot just because it's more support, and I'm walking around with the cane because that gives me the balance support that I need. But anyways, we will see if I'm able to get on the canal boat. And like I was going into saying, if I hadn't said already, because I can't remember, because so much just went on in the last like 5-6 minutes with the fantasy league. I'm just gonna, if they allow it, which I'm assuming they do, I'm hoping they do, I'm gonna film as we ride, and then hopefully, because the audio on the phone is not always the greatest, but I'm hoping it picks up the tour guide, because you can listen to them as we ride on the canal boat. It'll be a cool little journey for us to go on, and it doesn't take any walking besides walking over there in the first place, which I think should be pretty easy to a degree. But anyways, we'll see what happens and we'll go from there. Maybe this video will make it on the channel, maybe it'll get lost to time because I like decide, hey, I really can't quite handle this, and then we'll go from there. But anywho, yeah, I'm excited about it because it'll be something that'll be fun, because they take you through the tunnel down the other side that they have carved out of the old Union Canal, and I'm sure they're going to give us a lot of history, and then we'll listen to that. And this is, once again, this is owned and operated by the Lebanon County Historical Society, so thanks to them. Thank you to the volunteers who make this happen in the first place. Really knowledgeable folks. This is one of my favorite places to come to. It's just such a beautiful park. Going up and down that hill next to the Union Canal Tunnel, not so much, but eventually I'll get to the place where I can handle that a little bit easier. But we're a far ways away from that. But like, everything here is flat, so I'm just gonna follow the parking lot over, because it's, the trail is sort of that loose mulchy type stuff, and I prefer not to walk on that right now with the boot, just because, what the crap, that was the horn. But anyways, yeah, so the next bit you'll see is when Cliff gets here and we march ourselves over there, and then like I said, I'll film along the way as we're motoring down through and go from there. So hopefully we have the rest of a journey here, and we will go from there. And maybe even at the end, depending if you can hear the tour guide or not, I may at the end give the history of it, and at least you can experience the sailing aspect of going down the canal. I think that'll be a cool video. So thank you everybody, and we will see you in the next bit of the video. Well, here we are, we're outside. There is the Wandering Woodsman, Cliff. Handsome as always, of course. And right over there is the canal boat, and this is the canal. So we're gonna see what happens, and if they will allow a handicapped, crippled, hoofed weirdo onto the boat, and then hopefully we survive. Once again, I want to thank Cliff for inviting me. He feels bad for me, that's why. But anyway, so I'm going to turn this off, and then hopefully the next time we'll be moving on the canal boat. Thanks everybody. I just figured I'd show this. This is the end of the canal here. Right there's the boat. Sort of have the steps here. It's pretty neat to have a thing over there where I guess if you have to pay, I'm not sure whether you do or not, or if they have merchandise or whatever. So first tour leaves at 12:30. So we'll go over here and take care of our stuff and go from there.
Go. Alrighty, magic touch. Well, welcome aboard the Lois Miley. Now, we appreciate you joining us today on this very nice, sunny, somewhat warm day. Before we get started, we have some introductions to make and some safety reminders to cover. First, our captain today is Captain Bob. Hello. Captain Bob is licensed by the state of Pennsylvania. He's just not a handsome guy standing back there directing the boat. We have to actually get everybody licensed. And his primary job is to ensure our safety on our almost 1.25 mile round trip. Now, please pay close attention to any instructions Captain Bob may give during our trip. Now, per state regulations, we do have 2 fire extinguishers on board. This is where I do my Vanna White, right here, either side of me, and both are located here at the front or bow of the boat. Now, we do ask that you remain seated at all times with your hands inside the rails. Now, the boat does sway from side to side, and the sides of the tunnel are rather jagged, just like they were left when it was created in 1825. Actually, 27. 25, they started digging it. Now, please take note, there are life preservers down both sides of the boat. These are readily available to you in the unlikely event that we are rammed by an irate painted turtle and we sink. Well, in addition to the life vest, please note that you can also simply just stand up and walk either to the berm or the towpath, since we'll be only in about 2 feet of water for most of our tour. My name is Suzanne, and I will serve as your guide for the next 40 minutes or so. Please feel free to ask me any questions throughout our journey, and I may ask you to hold your question if we will be talking about that particular subject a little bit later on the tour. Now, if I don't know the answer, I'm going to ask Captain Bob. And if he doesn't know the answer either, well, we'll just make something up that sounds really good. It is actually pretty difficult to piece together all of the Union Canal's history. Record keeping wasn't as easy as today, and many details are recorded differently in varied resources. So sit back and enjoy your ride into history.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Could I just add, everybody, please don't stand up. It's going to get pretty exciting, so don't jump up. There's a little chicken. And also, when we get inside the tunnel, and I'm sorry if you're going to say this, Mike.
Go.
When we get inside the tunnel, the sides of the tunnel are kind of sharp, so don't reach out and touch that. So do everything else covered, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Captain Bob. So at the start of our tour here, I just want to say this particular park has lots of wildlife. And on our boat version of our tour, look along the edges, especially on the starboard side, along with on the logs, they probably will be painted turtles sunning themselves. The canal itself right now is the home to lots of different kinds of fish, and also large snapper turtles too. So, I'm going to start at the beginning, way back. William Penn, founder of Pennsylvania. Well, he acquired Pennsylvania because his father was owed 16,000 pounds from King Charles II. And William Penn said, hey, I want to start a place for my organization to come to and practice whatever they want to do, their religion. And it was the Quakers. The Society of Friends, called Quakers. And so King Charles II signed the Charter of Pennsylvania March 4th, 1681. I say that because 1681 was the birth of Pennsylvania, and it's also a time presently in March 4th, that you could go to Pennsylvania museums and get in for free because it's Pennsylvania's birthday, March 4th. So anyway, Penn came here to Pennsylvania, and in 1690, he left Philadelphia and rode by horse through the Lebanon Valley. And he really liked what he saw, because he was actually going to the Susquehanna River at the time and thinking of putting start a city there at the Susquehanna. But when he was riding through the Lebanon Valley, he was leaving behind, of course, the Delaware River, which was a major river on the eastern portion of Pennsylvania at the time. And then there's a Schuylkill River, which empties into Philadelphia. And Penn's goal was the Susquehanna River, which was sort of the center of Pennsylvania at the time. And so he knew there were 3 major water sources. But when he came through the Lebanon Valley, he was pleasantly surprised about the feeder streams, strong feeder streams that he found. And for those that are local, that's the Swatara Creek, the Tobahakan Creek, and also the Quittapahilla Creek. And he envisioned a unification of those creeks in order to produce transportation hub and also for people to move, and that being the canals. And waterways not only supplied the water for everything, but the engineering the canal close to the waterways afforded a level spot. So he saw the potential of a canal being built intersecting all those waterways, and of course the large ones, the Delaware, the Schuylkill, and the Susquehanna. But he was before his time. It was 1690 at the time. He had neither the people to do it, nor the technology was available at the time to do such an endeavor. Now, at the time, there were some hard-packed roads, and but not many. And actually, there was a complex system of overland paths and trails formed by the Native Americans at the time that crossed the region, that crossed the Lebanon Valley. And of course, the rivers and streams were used as highways across the state and also up to New York. Why canals, though? Well, a wagon at the time could only carry, if it's lucky, maybe a ton load, and it'd be dragging. It would have to have multiple horse hitch, at least 2 horses, and it would be dragging a ton. A canal at the time, well, a canal boat can actually transport 25 tons on water and be pulled by 1 mule. So it was really, the ideal thing is to have something on water to be able to pull that much tonnage. And remember, this is very early in our country, and roads were very difficult to produce, and canals were somewhat more easy at the time. Now, and railroads weren't invented either at the time. So all that was in Penn's mind, but nothing happened. And of course, the American Revolution eventually happened in 1775 to 1783. And then the colonies declared independence in 1776. And that's when the Great Britain actually formally recognized the United States by the Treaty of Paris in 1783. Now, I'm throwing a lot of dates at you, and I don't expect you to remember it, but the progression of time. We needed the progression of time for technology to catch up, also for more population to move into this area. So right now, we're at 1783. And of course, in 1788, that's when the Constitution was actually ratified. So we're up to 1788, and we're independent of Britain. Well, in 1791-92, 2 navigation companies were formed, and they were actually authorized by the Pennsylvania legislature to link the Susquehanna and the Schuylkill River, and that was called the S&S Navigation Company, and then the Delaware and Schuylkill Rivers, and that was called the Schuylkill and Delaware Navigation Company, or the S&D. So you had 2 independent companies. This was 1770, 91, 92, looking to join those 2 major rivers, just as William Penn had visioned. Well, in 1794, they started to dig west of Lebanon City at the Tobahocken Plantation. And if you go on 422 and east of Lebanon, it's the Tobahocken Plantation. But remember, it's 1794. We got our independence. Okay, we're flexing our muscles. We're a country on our own. We're independent of England. But really, there were no precedents to indicate the average cost of canal digging at the time, and there really were no engineers to actually construct canals at the time, because America at that time had no schools for engineers. And so what engineers had helped through the American Revolution, they went back to their countries. And so most canal engineers learned on the job. And that's what they did when they started digging in the Tobahocken Manor just east of here. They actually dug 4 brick locks. And they used bricks. They thought it would be, hold the water. And about 5 miles of canal, with a few bridges over the canal, was constructed in order to have the farmers access either side of the canal with their land. But the company ran out of money. Remember, there was no engineers, There's no precedence as far as how much it would take to actually make a canal. So they spent all the money they had, and they ran out of money. So there it sat, and it sat for a while. It wasn't until 1811 when the Union Canal Company was incorporated by the state legislation. It was 1811, and the legislator said, we got to make Pennsylvania prosperous. We got to connect these rivers up. So we're going to take the S&S, the Schuylkill Susquehanna Company, and the Schuylkill and Delaware Company, put them together, form them together to make the Union Canal Company. And we want to connect all these rivers. And so they did. And they started digging. Now, first off, I spoke about the locks. The original diggings had 4 locks. What is a lock? Well, it's an elevator of water. And it follows the lock follows the contours of the land, meaning high elevation to low, to high, to low, and the locks make that necessary in order to transport the boats to the contours of the land. And the Union Canal eventually had 95 locks, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. So the locals weren't real interested or really that happy about a canal in their own backyard. They really didn't like it on their land. They were compensated, and their bridges, as I said, were built over the canals for the farmers to access one side to the other. But I have not found exactly how much money was paid to the farmers for the canal to be built on their land, but as an illustration, at the Erie Canal, the rate was 18 cents per cubic yard of canal dug on a property, and that comes out to approximately $1 a foot. So, you know, this was early America, so that's how the compensation was given to the farmers. And in order to work the canal, in order to dig the canal, remember this is early 1811 or so, early in the 19th century, technology wasn't here. There wasn't steamboats, there was steam engines, and everything had to be done by hand. And so in order to do that, foreign workers had to be brought in from Boston or New York, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, we are approaching, right around the turn here, the Union Canal, the tunnel. It's the oldest existing intact tunnel in the United States. It's not the first one. Actually, the first one was built in about 1821 in about 3 miles east of Origsburg in Auburn area. That was the first one. But that was dismantled, the top taken off, and so this is the oldest existing transportation tunnel in the United States. Originally, it's 729 feet in length, but they wanted to enlarge it later on in the 19th century, and at present, it's about 621 feet in length. We enter from the south portal. It's the hardest rock, and we're moving north under softer rock, and we'll exit on the north portal. And as we go in, first off, the facade in the front here has been redone by the CCC in the 1930s. And the water inside the tunnel is deeper than out here. They dug it deeper than the really fortunate, because it does help keep it watertight, that muck. Now, during the actual use of the canal, leaks were just awful. They happened all the time. And in fact, before the enlargement, which I'll talk about a little bit, that they said it really leaked like a colander. And I've read where before the enlargement, 1/7 of the water supplied to the summit, that's the Lebanon area, that 7 miles section, was used. Only 1/7 was used of all that was pumped into it, the rest having been lost by leakage. That's a lot. And for several years, the summit lost by leakage more than twice as much water as it used for navigation. It was a lot. And eventually that was its downfall, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But the canal was enlarged in the 1850s, And to widen it, to also make it more productive, the canal boats could be larger, greater tonnage. In fact, the canal boat we're on now is a replica of a canal boat of the early canal use, but it was probably twice as long. So you have a general idea of the width, but it would have been about twice as long, and pulled by one mule. Now, one of the reasons they wanted to make a feeder, a branch of the Union Canal up to Pine Grove, to use the Sotara Creek as a water source for one thing. They also put in by waterworks and such, big pumping stations. They even had steam pumpers by that time, and aqueducts to have the water pumped from the Sotara into the Union Canal to maintain an even water level. And it worked, but it was a lot of work. And in fact, one of the nemesis of canals were muskrats. You familiar with what a muskrat is? Almost looks like a groundhog, but it has a rat-like tail, and it tends to have a more long snout, and they like water. Not that they live in water, but they build homes along the banks of waters and streams and things like that. And so muskrats would come along and start burrowing in the side of a canal. Well, that would cause a problem for leakage. Plus, the farmers didn't like it because they would have wet fields too. So it was a major issue. Now, going back into the canal, or into the tunnel itself, I want to talk about what it took to actually make this a historical item, an engineering marvel, and a historical significance here in the United States. It's just not a hole in a ridge. It's just not something they had to do in order to connect the headwaters of the Quittabahilia Creek and the Sotara Creek. It's something they had to do in order to maintain the integrity of the canal. But remember, all those dates I threw at you, it was in 1825 they started building this. And in order to build it, they needed people. Now, they didn't have pneumatics, they didn't have steam engines at the time. They had nothing but picks and shovels and wheelbarrows and humans.
Hey everybody, so I wanted to give a quick synopsis here at the end, because this is going to be titled as part 1. I had an issue with the camera. Either it shut off right as before we went into the tunnel, which was the coolest part, and I was highly disappointed that it didn't film that, or I accidentally hit it with my thumb somehow to stop it. But I am going back either this coming Sunday or the Sunday after that to film the tunnel, and to film after that. I don't know, like normally they go down a little further. There's a bridge and they turn it around with poles. We were only able to go down a little past the north side of the tunnel because the water's so low, just because of lack of rain. I guess last Sunday they didn't try to run it simply because the water's too low. It's running around 2 feet right now, and they normally like it to be about twice that height. But really awesome experience. Hope you guys really enjoy this video. There's a reason, that's giving you the reason why it's sort of a quote-unquote abrupt end to it. But we're going to continue this journey in a week or two, where we'll have part 2 of this, so you can see inside the tunnel how absolutely cool it is. I have to give a major shout out to the Union Canal Tunnel staff, park staff, also the Lebanon County Historical Society, because they in essence fund that. They own that site and keep it going. I give special shout out to Suzanne, who was our tour guide. She was phenomenal. I think it's one of those things, if you go to a historical site and there's a tour guide that's sort of like, it doesn't make it as enjoyable. But when you have somebody like Suzanne, who really is passionate about the site that she's the guide to, really knows her stuff, it brings history alive. So I really want to say thank you to Suzanne. Also want to say thank you to Captain Bob for bringing us through the canal safely, and also it was great fun to talk to him. He asked me to share Cliff and I's sites, our YouTube sites, so he can check them out and stuff like that. But they gave us permission. They were very gracious in allowing us to film. Really great experience. And like I said, when you have people that are really passionate about what they're doing, it really makes it, like, I loved Union Canal Tunnel Park before, but now I absolutely adore it. So thank you to them. Thank you to the other 2 staff members. Those guys were awesome as well. It was cool because when you have the issues I have right now, they were really careful in getting me on the boat and stuff like that, and they just took care with everybody. They sang happy birthday to, I guess it was a little girl, that was her birthday. So that was, it's stuff that they do beyond what they have to, that just makes it such a great experience. I highly encourage anybody that if you're looking for a day trip, a place to go, something historical, this is a great place to go. If you just enjoy hiking, nature, that's a great place. There's a north side of the park and there's a south side. Both of them have a lot to offer. Really cool place. Sundays specifically, starting in June, going to the end of September. Captain Bob had said that it may go into a couple weeks in October just because the temperature's a little higher, so it's doable. But once again, it really comes down to how much rain there is, that type of thing. This is really one of the top 3 experiences I've had at a historical society. Cliff and I went to Fort Niagara. Really knowledgeable guide there. Very cool. Also at Steamtown in Scranton, the trolley ride, the guide there was once again very passionate about what he did and very knowledgeable. And it just makes the journey so much more awesome. So Union Canal Tunnel Park, big thumbs up. A lot of fun. Really enjoyed going there. I will try to put up their websites in the comments as quickly as I can, so you can check them and the Lebanon County Historical Society out. Lebanon County Historical Society has a museum there. Very cool library. So if you're local, even if you're not, you're coming through the area, check it out. It's pretty cool. And I think it's $10 for adults. Kids are either $5 or $6, and I think kids under 5 are free. And it's Sundays. The first canal boat ride starts at 12:30. It's a good idea to be there maybe by 12, and then every hour they do another ride till like 3:30, maybe 4:30 if there's a lot of people waiting that want to ride. It just sort of depends, but get there for the early ones and you're guaranteed to be able to get a ride. It's a cool place. And Lebanon County Historical Society, like I said as well, really cool organization. These are the people that preserve our history and really make it enjoyable. They do such great work, so kudos to them. Thank you to them. Thank you also to Cliff, the Wandering Woodsman, for inviting me to come along on this. It's a lot of fun. So there will be a part 2. I'll let you guys know in the community thing where I can put notices and that type of stuff. Say, hey, I made it there. Videos coming up this evening, something like that. But I also didn't want to make this video too long because it's probably 35 minutes, something like that, this one. So if I would have had the full video, it's like a 40-minute boat tour. But anyways, as always, thank you for coming along. Another journey, learning about more hometown history, and we will see you all about town.